this is section, if you're a section 4, and it sounds like most of you guys are, so this is the kind of gifts that you can accept. That they, again, these are gifts that people don't seem to think have any influence on us at all. Those promotional items, those, you can get all that stuff, are still, you can still get the tokens of appreciation. You can get all the discounts that we talked about, as many as they were, and then you can go to the hosted reception. You just can't do the face-to-face meals with people.
What about gift cards?
Who are we getting the gift cards from?
So from the foundation to employees, we do convocation and building community day. We give out nominal gift cards to employees. Starbucks.
Well, what are you calling the purpose of that? Okay, so those can be looked at as tokens of appreciation.
You said from the foundation.
Yeah.
That's different than from the college.
Yeah, but
Yes, it's
still
different.
a limit.
But it's so you still have to follow the rules as far as the $50 limit, or so there's that rule. There's another rule that we didn't talk about today. It's one that we very seldom encounter. It's called compensation for outside. Basically being compensated for the work that you're already getting paid for. So you can't accept gift cards from people that, like maybe a student, for doing your job. If you do a great job and your student wants to thank you for that and give you a $5 Starbucks card, you can't take that card, because the board looks at that as being compensated twice for you doing your same job. You're doing the job they expect you to do, your college expects you to do, and so you can't receive any more compensation for that. So that's, I guess, maybe it's something we should think about as well.
Good. So back to the foundation. So let's say the foundation, in appreciation and recognition, gives away something more than $50 in gifts or things. Let's say you get a night at a hotel, the value is $100. That would be no. Or
Yeah.
Would that be?
Yeah, and I would imagine this gift is going to an individual. So yeah, you'd still have to follow the $50 gift rule. So you'd still have to make sure that it was less than $50.
And David, there are some additional guidelines around drawings and giveaways. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So again, if it's a conference that, so let's talk about that. We got a few extra minutes. We can spend a little time on this. So let's say you go to a conference and your agency pays for you to go to the conference, and part of that conference package is a door entry into, so you can win maybe a door prize at the end of the conference. Well, who paid for that door prize? Who paid for that? The college, right? So if you happen to win the door prize at the end of the conference, who's that prize go to? It goes to the college, right? So let's look at it in a different way. Now let's say that we go to the same conference. The college is paying my way down there. They're paying for the conference. They're paying the hotel. They're paying my airfare. They're paying for my time. But when I get to the conference location, in the big area of the conference, the hotel, there's vendor booths set up, and I go up to one of them and I take $1 out of my pocket and I buy a raffle ticket and I put it into the bucket, and at the end of the conference I win the prize, and this time it's an electric car. Do I get to keep the car, or is it the college's car? I get to keep it, right? Because why? Because I paid for it, right? So then that's kind of the rule. A gift is only a gift if no compensation is paid for it. So if you pay for it, you paid the $1 for it, so the gift belongs to you. The prize belongs to you. If the college pays for the gift, or the stub that goes in the bucket, the gift belongs to the college. Okay? That help you out?
Yeah, and then also back to Tanya's foundation question. If, let's say, at convocation, there are some giveaways that are kind of given away to anybody that's in the audience based on something random, right? Not selected, everybody's got an equal shot.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay because it's random. Everybody has an equal shot, okay? And so that might be okay. Now we see this a lot. And a lot of times it's the gifts between, and a lot of these are the foundation's not a state agency, so it would be an outside gift. I still think you'd have to follow the $50 gift rule, though. You'd be able to take the gift, but you'd still have the $50 gift rule that you'd have to follow. Okay, we could do some research on that and get back to you, though. But I think that's the rule. Okay, anything else on that? These are good questions. So, as a Section 4 employee, these are the things that you can accept. Remember, these rules were written back in 1995, and I don't know what the magical or influential power of flowers are, but flowers is actually written into the law that if you're a Section 4 employee, you can't be given flowers by one of those people that you regulate or do contract work for. Okay? There's also another rule about a gift, that gifts are only gifts if you keep them for 30 days. So if you get some flowers and you return it 29 days, then it's not considered a gift.
Throw it away in 21 days.
You can't throw it away because that's not properly returning it. So if you throw it away, you did return it, so you must...
You have to return it, you can't, you said get rid of it, so if you get rid of it...
you have to return it.
Okay.
It needs to be returned within 30 days.
Because you don't, I re-gift it, and therefore not accept it.
Re-gifting is not good.
So at the end of the club,
You
you
can
will
donate.
see faculty with offices with flowers up and down the hall.
Who does that?
Faculty receive flowers from students. That's silly. That's absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. It's probably a violation. And now if the student wanted to give the flowers to the college, and that would be okay, if they just can't give them to faculty members directly, individually. Okay? Because of that relationship between student and teacher, right? You have,
It's my understanding it's the end of the quarter, you no longer have influence over that student,
Okay.
and therefore the grade's been submitted.
good point. So if they're not going to be your student anymore after that point, then again, that relationship is gone, right? The quarter is over, they're no longer your student, then you can accept those. But if they're still going to be in your program or they're going to be in your classes from that point on, then you can't take the flowers.
David, and I would also point out that many times those gifts are given on the last day of class, and grades have yet to be set.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's almost the most volatile time, even though the intent, that's not hardly ever the intention. It still creates a danger for the employee.
I think as a student, we'd all want to show our teachers or professors appreciation for what they've done. So maybe at the beginning of the class, we might just want to let people know that you're not going to be able to give us those gifts, until maybe they're in the other class if they want to do that. Just so you don't have to, that's going to be a pretty tough situation to find yourself in when somebody's trying to present you with a gift for helping them out and get through the course, and you tell them you can't take it. So it's tough. Yes.
What if you get a gift, you don't know who it came from, but it's a student sending me something because I processed it?
Okay, then we're going to have to get rid of that gift, return it, and we don't know who it goes to. We have to either donate it or we have to get rid of it somehow. You can't keep it.
So can I donate to college display?
Yes, and that's a perfectly acceptable way to get rid of it. You can put it out in the lobby or someplace where the public has access to, and everybody can enjoy it, and that works as well.
So if we got flowers, we could just put it out in the lobby?
Yep. Yep. So maybe that's the solution.
Put it in the division office or something.
Yeah, if you
like
put
that.
it where everybody has access to it and it's not sitting on your desk or in your cubicle, maybe that's a solution to that problem. Okay.
So co-workers and administrative assistant day, no flowers.
Gifts between coworkers are not considered gifts. Okay.
You're not getting out of anything. Now buying flowers eggs.
Okay, guys, we got about 15 minutes. We got one more topic to cover. So we're got to move on here a little bit. So you can't accept travel expenses by the folks you do contract with, your vendors. They can't pay your way to conferences and that kind of stuff. And they can't buy your food, again, at those face-to-face meetings. If you want to have those meetings and you're hungry and you want to eat, just offer to pay your fair share for the meal. Yes?
So if the travel and the food and beverage for a conference are the benefit of membership in an organization, all members of this organization are covered for X, and we're members of that organization.
Well, it's going to come down to the relationship you have with that vendor. Do you contract with that vendor or are you just a part of their organization? If you're just a part of their organization, then this is not going to apply. You're not going to be a section. But if you contract with them to provide services to you or something like that, then you're not going to be able to accept that.
Well, but if you're a member of a professional organization, and that professional organization has as a benefit the ability to attend X conference or X training, whether it's put on by a vendor or not, is that...
I don't think so. But those are good questions for Kate, because she can do the research, and I would try to give you a right answer now, but without doing the research and digging into it, I wouldn't be able to give you. I would hate to say something and not be right. So if you are concerned about that, give Kate a call, and she will do the research, and she will give you an absolutely positive right answer, one way or the other. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to move on. We got to move on to the number one. Oh, what do you do when you get these things? Don't accept a gift if that's even possible. That's the best answer. Return to sender. Remember, you got 30 days to do that. You can donate to charity. If you got something that you really want and you don't want to give it back, you can contact your ethics advisor and they can kind of give you some guidance. Or you can give us a call and we can kind of walk you through if you get to keep it or not. But probably if you are having doubts about if you should keep it or not, you already know the answer, right? You're probably not going to be able to keep it. What's that? You can give it to the ethics advisor and he can deal with it. All right, so let's talk about state resources. And again, this by far is our number one, and I don't want to think when I say that this is our number one violation, it is. So I guess we want to spend a little bit of time. This is the one that's also changed the most over the last 6 months, as far as not so much how the law has changed, because the law hasn't really changed, but how the board is looking at things now with the use of resources have changed a bunch. So this is what the law is. Remember I talked earlier, the law is pretty harsh and it really doesn't give you any room for wiggle. If you're not using the resource for your state purpose, it's the only other use is for personal purpose. So this rule, and I'm not going to read it to you, but basically it says that if it's not for a state purpose, it's for personal purposes and it's not allowed. Okay? With this rule being as it is, the legislatures gave the board the authority to create exceptions to this rule. And so that's what this de minimis rule that we're going to talk about here in a minute came from. The board said, okay, you can use some resources for some reasons a little bit of time, right? So if you wanted to make a phone call to make a doctor's appointment, you could do that, as long as you weren't on the phone all day talking to your doctor or you're doing this every day, right? Every now and then a phone call to the doctor, okay. Every now and then a phone call home to check on your kids at home, or to the school to check on how they're doing at school, to make car appointments and medical appointments and that kind of stuff. Every now and then a little bit of resource here is okay, right? Because they deemed it's probably more cost effective if they have an employee pick up a phone and make a phone call versus having to take and leave the facility to go take care of this, or a phone call would have been able to do it. So, but now we're moving into a new age with computers. So now, initially, it was okay to do those with the phone, but now we can do all that stuff on the internet now, right? We can make appointments, we can contact the school, we can even contact our kids at home, all through the internet. And so the same thing applies, right? It's the same thought that as long as you use that a little bit to take care of those things, that's okay. But getting on the internet and spending 15, 20 minutes every day, maybe even on your break, maybe on your 15-minute break every day, or your lunch hour every day, is going to be a violation of the Ethics Act, right? Because you can only use a little bit. And I'd love to be stand up here and tell you de minimis is if you use something for more than 5 minutes a day, twice a week, that's going to be above and beyond de minimis. I can't do that because the board won't be that bright, right? They don't want to give you a bright answer. They just said a little bit every now and then is and no cost to the state. And we're going to go through all those tenets here in just a minute. But so that's de minimis. So let's talk about the one thing that we might need a definition on here is private benefit or gain. What does that really mean? Does that mean money? You guys think that means money, or could it mean something else? It really means anything, right? It can be money, but it can be just the fact that you get to use a piece of equipment that somebody else doesn't have access to, only because you have a state job. You have access to the computer, you have access to the internet, emails, and all that stuff. So any private benefit or gain could be a violation. This is what the board has defined private benefit or gain. You can see even with their definition or examples, it's still clear as mud. It can range from avoiding a cost or expense by the use to using resources to support your outside business, paying a discounted government rate for a personal phone call, and there are some uses that do not appear to have a cost but may result in a private benefit or gain. So even if there's no cost, there's still a private benefit or gain that can be had. And again, this I think really says that any use of a state resource other than for your official business is going to be a violation of the Ethics Act. Okay, now comes the exceptions. We're authorized to give some exceptions. Remember, legislature said that you can give exceptions, but you can't make strictly prohibited things, because the rule itself is pretty prohibitive, right? Restricted. So de minimis use. So these are the rules that now you have to, when you use a resource, you have to ask yourself all these questions. Is there little or no cost to the state? If I use this resource, am I costing the state any money or even a little bit of money? Okay? And if the answer to that is yes, then it's not de minimis use and I can't use it for my personal reason. Okay? If the answer to that is no and still I have to go down, this use that I'm getting ready to use, does it interfere with my official duties? Even if it's a phone call to home and I'm the person that sits at the front desk and people are coming in to me and I send them where they need to go and I'm on the phone talking to maybe the doctor's office and I got a line starting head out the door and I'm not doing my job and now I'm on the phone, I'm interfering with my official duty by making that phone call or doing that at that point in time, so that one time could be a violation as well. It has to be brief in duration and frequency, and this is the one that gets us in trouble the most because it's you guys, it's going to the internet. You might do it every day on your lunch hour, your break time, and think that's okay because it's your lunch time and your break time, and you're not really using any state resources. But the reality is it's the computer and the state internet that you're using, right? And it's not really costing the state any more money. So, but it's not brief in duration or frequency. You're doing it all the time and it's more than just a few minutes a day, right? So even though it's on your own time, it still could be a violation. Pandora radio. You guys have public Wi-Fi here on campus? So if you have public Wi-Fi and you want to stream Pandora radio or anything like that, and you use your personal devices, you could do that all day long. Okay? Because public has access to the Wi-Fi, you have access to it as well. Now what you can't do is stream that through your state computer or state equipment, right? It has to come through your personal device. Now you may have policy that says differently.
Yeah, especially with bandwidth being as tight as it is, it does have an impact on knowledge if you're streaming music. We're hoping to fix that.
Yeah, bandwidth is really the issue, and this is one of those things that I concede the board changed it, because remember back in 1995, the internet and computers were really at the beginning stages. From 1995 to now, bandwidth is, it used to be you had a limited amount, and it sounds like maybe you guys still have just a limited amount. You have a limited amount, and it's like trying to force water through a tube. You just can't get anything more through there. And so if you're using it up for internet or for streaming audio and video and stuff in for your personal reason, folks that want to use that to get their job done can't, because you're slowing the works down. But as technology improves, and it's improved in a lot of different areas in that bandwidth, that could change as well, because that's not going to be a big issue. But brief in duration and frequency is the one that gets you in trouble the most. Does it distract from state business? And this kind of goes back to the other one. Does it interfere with what you're doing? Could be a problem. Does not disrupt other state employees. So as long as it doesn't disrupt other employees, it might be okay if it's de minimis. And so we have an example of, you guys know what day trading is? Day trading is working the stock market during the day, and by definition, day trading happens during the day, and most state workers work during the day, right? So if I'm day trading during the day and I'm at work, I'm probably using my state equipment and time to do that. So we had this guy that was day trading. He was at work. He was very good, at least he said he was very good at it. We never knew how much money he made at it, but he was so good at it, he would try to educate his coworkers on how to day trade at work. So he would be not only violating the laws, but he would be encouraging other folks to do it as well and disrupt their ability to get their job done. So that would be a problem. And does not compromise the integrity of state data. This one is one that we could violate and really not even think about it, right? We all have personal cell phones that maybe we get to the office and we realize, oh, they're almost dead, so we plug them into our computer. What happens when we plug our smartphones into our computer on our desk? Does it just charge our phone, you think? No. The very first thing that happens is the phone and the computer have to kind of sync up. So the very first thing that happens is it downloads a program onto the computer now, so the computer can recognize the phone. That itself might be a violation, right? Depending on your IT policy about downloading software on your computer that's not authorized by your IT. So that might be a violation of policy just by doing that. Okay, and the second thing that happens is now they start to sync up and they're starting to share data back and forth. And you may have some very embarrassing stuff on your phone, right? That now all of a sudden, because you've done that, is now synced over to your state computer, and guess where it is? It's on your state computer. So when I look at your computer, what once was on your phone is now on your state computer. So, and depending on what that is, it could be very embarrassing. It could be create another violation of some other sort, storing information on the state computer. What about playing CDs? Plugging those into your state computer and playing the music CDs. You think that would be okay? In the olden days, a CD was just that. It was a CD, we'd plug it in, it would play music. But now, modern CDs, when you plug them into your CD player, guess what happens? It goes out to the internet, and it tries to find information about the artist and the band and stuff, and it brings all that information back to your computer. So it's opening up a portal where those things like spyware and malware can be downloaded onto your work computer, and that could somehow affect your IT system. And you don't want to be the person that is responsible for shutting down your computer system and the IT, because they'll figure it out eventually. They'll know where that came from, and you don't want to be that person. So don't do anything that's going to compromise the integrity of state data. A lot of free, if you're on the website a lot and you go to those free sites, or if you want to look at porn at work, if you go to those sites, those are the sites that download the biggest. It's the biggest and most opportunity to download those bad things onto your computer. And that's the reason why we don't want you to do that, because you're opening your agency up to bad things. When you go to those free sites and those other sites that we talked about, you just don't want to go there, because bad things are going to happen. And you have no control of it. Once you hit the send button or search button or wherever it goes, those things are going to be downloaded onto your work computer, onto your servers, and depending on what it is, it could be really devastating. You don't want that. Okay, so these are some of the resources that we have. Now, every resource that we have, there's some resources, for the most part, that we can use de minimis amounts of for those things like checking up on our kids at home, things like that. No, not even a little bit of state resource for private business, though, right? I think we've hammered that home pretty good. No, nothing like that. But these are some of the resources that we have available that kind of you have to think about before you use them. Are these going to be something that's going to be de minimis use if I use them or not? Computers, internet, email, software, technologies. When I speak of technologies, even some of the data spreadsheets technology that we have might be SQLite or Oracle or whatever it is that we have. To use those for our personal benefit might be a problem. Sometimes there's software out there that searches for people other than the ones that we can go to the computer and look at. We might have some designated technologies just to do that. Probably not here at the colleges, but some of the other agencies that have to deal with looking at people have these specialized technologies that if they use those for their personal benefit, like to look up their past girlfriends or past boyfriends, or maybe their neighbors that just moved in, they want to find out, who just moved into the neighborhood, and they're using that stuff, those technologies for their personal benefit, that's going to be a problem. Okay? Vehicles. Remember, if you're getting a state vehicle, that state vehicle is to travel during work time to take care of official business, and if you're using that for your personal gain, stop off, take a detour on the way home and hit the casino or something like that in a state car, it's going to get you in trouble. Remember the OFM rules regarding state vehicles, who can ride in the vehicle with you. We had a case where a young lady was going to go to a conference in Wenatchee, and in this case she actually went to her supervisor and asked the supervisor, can she bring her husband along to the conference in the state vehicle? What do you guys think of that one? But what do you think the supervisor told her? Okay, I don't see a problem with that. So again, as supervisors, you got to know the rules, because did the supervisor do the employee any good? Because she did what she thought was okay. Somebody complained, and the board held her accountable to do that, along with the supervisor as well. So again, as supervisor, you need to know the rules, so when your folks come to you, you can give them the right answers. So know the rules regarding vehicles, phones, and yes.
Well, what if it's not a state vehicle, just your private vehicle, you're getting reimbursed for gas?
That's the way to do it, and that's probably what the supervisor should have said. So no, you can't take a state vehicle and do that, but if you want to take your own vehicle, we can reimburse you for mileage, then your husband or anybody else can go with you in your car, right? That's the way to get around it. But if you take a state car on a trip, you can't take non-state people in the car with you, or not for unofficial business, folks. Yeah, so that's the, yes.
What if you're at a conference and the hotel room is being paid for by the state? Can your spouse come and stay with you?
Yes, as long as there's no additional charges, right? So they can go stay with you, but if you upgrade the room or you get some other fees attached to that because your spouse is there, then you have to pay those yourself. But they're going to pay the basic room price or whatever it is that they're going to pay, and just don't reimburse for more than that. We've had a case where that was the case too, where a person was going to hotels and they were bringing their family along and they were upgrading the rooms and getting a bunch of upgrades, and they were getting reimbursed for that by the state, right? So as long as you can do that, but you just can't add those costs to the state, right? They have to be paid for by you. Good questions. Equipment and power tools. These are. This is for whatever reason. It's one of those things that even a one-time taking home something to use for your personal benefit is a violation of the law. So if you haven't, maybe you need you have a laptop in your office, and maybe your young student at home needs a laptop to do a project at school or something. And you take that laptop home and you let them use it for a day or two to complete their project. You bring it back. You know, you think no harm, no foul, right? Because it didn't cost the state anything. But there is some chance anyway that the computer could be damaged, it could be lost. So the board has really said, they're clear on this one, that if you take equipment home for your personal use, even one time, it's going to be a violation. That's one of those things that there is no de minimis amount to it. If you take it home for your personal use, you're going to be in trouble. And of course there's paper, you know, all those things that we take for granted at work that's just there for us to use. If we start using that stuff for our personal benefit, then we can be in trouble. Kind of funny, we have a kind of a community printer in our office, and it's, for whatever reason, it's right in front of the ethics board, right? So there's 3 of us, and there's this big community printer, and the other day we go back there and there's about, I don't know, 50 sheets of somebody's having a birthday party printed on the printer. We didn't follow up on it, but it was kind of funny that they would do that right in front of our office. It was kind of funny. Yeah. But so just be careful when and nowadays, guys, I'll tell you too, technologies is really helping me as an investigator out. It used to be if you printed something on the printer, we had no idea who was doing it. But now all that stuff's being tracked. So if we get a complaint that you're printing stuff off the computer, we just go to the computer, download what's on there, and sure enough, look, this is what you printed. And it's really no getting around it, right? Because there it is. And the board's going to look at that and say, yep, you did it. So just be a little bit leery of that. Technology is good in a lot of respects, but if we're trying to do bad things, sometimes it's not good. All right.
Did you talk about phone and scan card?
Yeah, this used to be an issue, not so much anymore. And the reason why, I think, is everybody has their personal phone with them now. And so it's not that big of an issue, but before, and this was probably, I don't know, 5 years ago when personal phones really started taking off. But we all had state-issued phones, so we just had to be very careful about making personal calls on our state phone. Remember, the de minimis amount was okay, a little bit here now and then. So if you were going to be late at work and you wanted to call home to let people know at home that you were going to be a little late, and you had to do that every now and then, that would be okay. Again, de minimis amount of use. But if you were using it every day to talk about business or making long distance phone calls to maybe relatives from out of the state, that's going to be a problem. And the scan thing, again, we don't use a whole lot of that, again, because most phones, we have cell phones now that long distance doesn't charge us anymore, so we just use our own phones to do it. But if you use your scan account and you were making long distance calls and you were causing the state to have to pay some money for that, then they're going to hold you accountable. We don't see that anymore a whole lot. We did have a case just a few years ago where we looked at a person's scan log for a year, and over the course of the year, the state probably paid out an extra $150 or something like that on her scan calls, which is a lot. If you know how scan calls work, when you look at them, you can talk for a long time for just a couple pennies. So when you get $250 worth or $150 worth of scan calls in a year, that's a lot. But even that's not a whole lot of money. But the board held her accountable even for that little bit, and said no, that's a violation, and so there you go. Okay. Oh, we're a little late. And I'm gonna get out of here real quick. So just stop and think before you use resources. Make sure that you're not violating any of the rules. And the last thing you want to do is to wake up in the morning and see you or your college on the front page of the news or on the news that something bad has happened, right? So just think about that before you do some things, and we'll keep everybody out of trouble. last thing, and then I'm done. This is not part of the use of resource rule, but it is a very prohibited rule. Any amount of resources for political activity, political campaigning at work is going to be a violation with the ethics board. Okay. Any questions overall? Thank you. Oh, question right here.
So in your office, you can't have a banner for a candidate, is that correct?
Depends. So this is how it works. Now, if it's from a past election, a person that's not an actual candidate at the time, then the board says that's art. So if you wanted to put a election campaign poster of President Obama and you wanted to put that in your office, the board would say that's not a political campaign poster, that's art now, because Mr. Obama can never run for office again, right? He's not in that arena anymore after he retires. So if you wanted to put a current political poster in your office, the board says you can do that, but you have to put it in a place that no one else can see it. So if you want to put it behind your desk or behind the filing cabinet, the board says they don't care. But if you put it in a place where people can see it, then that's going to be an issue. Okay, does that answer your question? Basically, you can't do it. Any other questions on political campaigns? They're very strict on that. Thank you.
David, thank you.